Hey everyone, and welcome back to my WordPress theme development series. It has been a while since I have created another video, and I apologize for that. A bit about me: I'm a professional web developer, so I obviously have to prioritize my work, and I had a lot of work on the past few months, but I'm ready to get back into it, and I should be able to bring you a video maybe every few days. So this video is going to focus on purely just forms on WordPress. Now, there's a couple of ways you can do forms. You can obviously create your own form, hard code it into WordPress, which I will show you how to do maybe on the next video. But in this video, I'm going to show you how to create a form very, very simply using an amazing plugin, which is one of my top 5 plugins for WordPress. As I mentioned in the previous video, I don't use that many plugins because I try to keep my WordPress themes as lean as possible when I'm developing websites for clients. So when you keep it as lean as possible, it means that the website will load much, much quicker. You're not going to have plugin bloat. So you're not going to have all these different plugins trying to achieve their own goals, and you have like a million things happening at once. And if there's a problem, you don't know where to start. So with that being said, the form plugin that I would highly recommend is something called Gravity Forms. Now, Gravity Forms has been around for quite a long time now. I couldn't quote you on the exact date that they started, but they have evolved. And yes, it is a paid plugin, but it is definitely an investment in your business or in your client's website. So if you go onto the pricing page on the Gravity Forms website, you'll see that it's $59 a year for one site. But if you are a web developer and you are producing sites consistently for your clients, you could definitely get the Elite license, and that would allow you to use it on unlimited sites. It provides you with all the add-ons. So we're talking about add-ons that allow you to integrate with Mailchimp, ActiveCampaign, take payments via Stripe. It's very, very powerful. I can't go through absolutely everything, but I will show you how to integrate a simple form onto your website, and we will make it so let's say if somebody goes onto a car page, that they'll be able to inquire, and when they inquire, you as the administrator of the website will receive an email, and you'll know exactly what they're inquiring about without them having to type it in. So let's get started. The first thing we need to do is obviously install Gravity Forms, and that's just a plugin, so we just need to activate it. I've already got it on my desktop, so I'll just go to Upload Plugin and go to my desktop and install it. Now that it's installed, we can just activate it. And once it's activated, we're going to see on the left-hand side the plugin called Forms. Now, if you click into there, first thing you'll do is go through the setup stage. So you can enter your license key. I'm just going to click next. You don't have to, which means that if you buy a license for Gravity Forms, you can still use Gravity Forms after the renewal date. It just means that you won't get updates. But I would highly recommend renewing it every year, because you will get a lot of awesome updates and security updates as well. So we click next, and I'll just click next again. I'll make the currency. Now, it doesn't really matter about the currency unless you're going to be making payments through the forms. You don't have to worry about it, but it's better to just set it up anyway. And I turn the toolbar menu off just so it doesn't clog the menu up here. So we'll go next, and let's create a form. So let's call this car inquiry form, and you don't need to put a description if you don't want to, and we'll just save that. Now you can notice the interface here with Gravity Forms. It's really quite simple. It's just a drag and drop interface. Now I'm pretty much against drag and drop interfaces as a web developer, but when it saves time, like with creating forms, it's really, really handy. So let's go back to the cars page. Oops. And we'll click on a car. Now, what would we want to know if someone were to inquire about the car? Maybe we would ask them for their name, their email, their phone, and the inquiry that they would like to make. So let's just do this. So we can go name. So there are two types of fields. There are standard fields, which are just basic fields, like a single line input text or a single paragraph text. Or Gravity Forms has created some other ones which make it a bit more complex. So when I say complex, I mean like for name, for example, it'll allow you to have a first name and a surname, which we'll try that now. So we'll drag name there. Then we'll drag in email underneath, and then we'll drag in phone. And then we'll drag in, if we go to standard fields, we can do a paragraph text, which will be your inquiry. So if we click into name, for example, there are all these settings for the name. You can put different placeholders. So for the first name, I'll do first name. And for the last name, we can do surname. You can add CSS classes. You can do all that sort of stuff, but we don't really need to do that right now. Then we'll do email, and we'll make email required. And you just do the placeholder of your email. If we go back to name, we'll also make that required. Okay, phone, same thing, but with phone, you might want to change it to international format if you're not in America, because otherwise it will ask you to type it in that specific format. We'll then make that required as well, and placeholder your phone number. And yep, don't need to do anything else there. And then with the paragraph, you can just do your inquiry. And maybe if you went to appearance, you could do, how can we help you? And make that required as well. So then we just need to update that. And because we're going to be using it on this specific page, we'll want to know what page that they're inquiring from without them having to actually type in the type of car they're inquiring from. So if you go down to post fields, you can actually bring the title of the page here, okay? And you can make it a hidden field so that they don't need to actually fill it out. And actually, with that being said, sorry, I'm going to delete that and I'm going to go back. I'm just going to make it a single line of text. I'm going to make it a hidden one, and I'm going to make the default value, the title. Oh, is it going to let me? Yes, okay, embed post page title. Okay, so there we go. So what this is going to do is it's going to have a hidden field on the form which the user can't actually see, and it's going to automatically fill in the title of the page. And we'll actually change the label of this to inquiring about. Okay, and then we'll click on update. If we go back to our dashboard now, we should see Gravity Forms. There's a forms thing here which will automatically show us any how many forms have been filled out, and we can actually see the entries that have been entered. But if we go to forms here, you should see we have this form. Now, how do we get this form into this page? Well, we can use PHP to do that. So let's go into our code editor and let's go to our single cars page, which is here. And now we want to actually add it. Let's see, where will we add it? We'll add it to the right of the picture. So we'll go back into the code, and the right of the picture, I believe, is here. I'm just going to type in here for a second just to see where that goes. Okay, so no, it hasn't worked properly. So let me just try and figure out what's going on. Where we should probably add it is here, so above color. So I'll just type in here again and just see where it is on the template. And there we go. So it's just on top of the color here. So what we can do is we can embed the Gravity form using some PHP. Now Gravity Forms has its own kind of function which allows us to do that, which is PHP echo, no, not echo, just PHP, Gravity form. And then the first argument is the ID of the actual form. So if we go and look at the ID is 1. So we'll put 1 there. The second is the title. So what would we like the title of it to be? You don't need a title at all, but I'm just going to put inquire about this car. The third one will be the description, which I'm just going to leave null, so nothing in there. And then we can also choose whether this form displays even if the form is inactive. And what I mean by that is inactive as in here. You can control if a form is displaying or not in the Gravity Forms section here. You can actually make it so that if you make it true, that means that it's going to display even if you specifically say that form to be inactive. So I would probably just do false for that. It doesn't make much sense. You then have the option to pass an array of dynamic parameter keys to populate the actual form, okay? So I will get to that in a second, but I'm just gonna put a blank array there. And then Ajax. So will we use Ajax or we'll use a standard HTTP post request? We'll use Ajax. So what we'll do is we will do true here, which will be for it to use Ajax. And then you can give it a tab index. So with tab indexes, if you have multiple forms on a page and then you hit the tab key on your keyboard, sometimes if the tab index is messed up, you could be tabbing from one form to another, but you want to keep it in line. So let's give it a tab index of 100. And the last one will be whether we want to echo the form or return it. So I'm just going to make it true, which means we're going to echo it, which means we don't have to do PHP echo. And then we will close that off and go back to our car page and refresh it. So now you should see that we have a form which has a first name, surname, email, phone, inquiry, and submit button. Okay, so if I submit it, you'll notice it's using Ajax. So it's not reloading the page. If you want to see what it does if we don't choose to use Ajax, we can just turn Ajax off, which is this argument here, and then refresh it. And you'll notice now that it'll actually reload the page. So it's not as a nice, it's not that good of a user experience if you don't use Ajax. So just to test this out, I'll refresh it again. Actually, let's just go back to the page. I'll type in my details and I'll type in test and I'll hit submit. You should see that says, thanks for contacting us. We'll get back in contact with you shortly. And you can change this as well in the form settings. So if we go back into the car inquiry form and we go to notifications, you should see firstly, notifications is an email that will get sent to you as the administrator of the website. You can also create a new notification and send an email to the customer, thanking them for their inquiry, which I'll show you how to do shortly. But the first thing is confirmations. Now that is the text. Thanks for contacting us. We'll get in contact with you shortly. You can easily change that to thanks for sending through your inquiry, and then maybe you can use a placeholder. So you could say name. So it would be like, thanks for sending through your inquiry, Sean. We'll be in touch shortly. And that just personalizes it. So if you hit save confirmation there, oops. And then we go back and refresh the page and we'll just try it again. Hit submit. There we go. Thanks for sending through your inquiry, Sean. We'll be in touch shortly. Cool. So that works perfectly. You then have notifications. So the default notification is called the admin notification. Now you obviously want this form to send through to you as an administrator. So to do that, Gravity Forms makes it quite easy because you have placeholders for the admin email address, which is just the email in the settings. So if you change your email here, that will automatically send to that specific email. However, you can just obviously override it. Sorry, not here, here. You can override it and it will send to there, obviously. But you can also use commas and do multiple emails if you'd like to. But to keep it simple, I'm just going to use the placeholder there. The from name, you could make it the name of the actual person. So first name and last name of the person who's filled out the form. The from email, you should probably use your email address or something like no reply at yourwebsite.com, just so when the form sends that it doesn't get picked up as spam. Because if you actually put in the email address of the person who is inquiring, what can happen is that providers like Gmail, Hotmail, and all them will think that you're trying to spoof an email address. So best not to use the from email as the person who's sending the email address. Sending the email through the website. What you can do is you can put their email in the reply to, which means that you as an administrator, when you receive the email and you hit reply, it will reply to their email. It's not going to reply to no reply at yourwebsite.com. You can also do BCC, obviously. You could use you could use their email for BCC as well. That doesn't make much sense. You could type in another email at gmail.com and it'll do a blind carbon copy. Then with the subject, you could do something like inquiry about, and make it so they're inquiring about page title, which is the car name, from first name, last name. Okay, and we'll update that now. Cool. So what's going to happen now is an email is going to be submitted through this online form. Gravity Forms is going to pick it up, and it's going to automatically send an email to the administrator of the website, which is located in the settings page here. It's going to say that the email is from the name and the last name of the person who's inquiring, and it's going to send that email from no reply at yourwebsite.com. So you obviously put your website in there, or your email, sorry. It's going to set a reply to as the email of the person that sent the inquiry. So when you try and reply, it will reply to their email, and the subject will be inquiry about, and then the post title. So for example, the post title for this particular car would be Toyota Corolla. Okay, from name first and name last. And then in here, the all fields piece of code will basically put everything that's inside the form. So you don't have to individually, set the name, email, phone, all that. It just automatically grabs all the fields that have been filled out. Okay. So that's how you do it. You could also go and create another notification and make that say customer response. You could then send it to the email address of the customer. So if you select the field and you make it their email, and you could make it from my car dealership, or whatever the business is called, and you could make it from your administration email address. You could then do subject, thank you for your inquiry, and do the name of the person, the first name. And then in the body of the email, just say, hello, and then their name. Thank you for inquiring about, and then it will be the title of the page, not the ID, sorry, the title. We will be in touch shortly. Cool. All right. So now when an email is, an inquiry is sent through the website, an admin email goes to you as the administrator, and then an email goes to your customer thanking them for their inquiry. Okay. So what if you wanted to include the registration number of the car inside the email? If we go to the form to edit the form, you remember how we had a hidden inquiring about field, which the customer won't see. It will automatically have the title of the page in there, which is fine. But we don't have the ability to grab any custom fields here, which is annoying, but there is definitely a way to make that work. So to do that, what we need to do firstly, let's just create another hidden field, and we're going to call that, we'll just call it registration. And I won't hide it right now. I'm just going to show how it works. And inside here, we want to use something called allow the field to be populated dynamically. Now, if you remember when we were embedding the form before, we had the ability to do something called field values. And I just used a basic empty array. Let's go back and you can see here, this is the empty array here. So what we can do here is we have the ability to pass in values from our template or from our website. So what we can do is let's create a field called, or a parameter called rego. And then, let me just move this over a bit. And then what we want to do is we want to pass in the registration of the car, okay? But we're not going to use the field because the field automatically echoes out. We want to use get field because it will just get the data. So we'll do get field and it's just registration, okay? So it's going to pass in a parameter called rego, and it's automatically going to have the registration of the car in there into the form. So let's grab that, go back here, and the parameter we want registration to use is called rego, and then we'll update it. Okay, so now let's go into our page, refresh it. You should see that the registration is ABC1234. Okay, if we now go to say, let's go back to the Toyota Land Cruiser, you should see the registration is there as well. Cool. So now we can just say, let me just close out of that one. we can hide it so it can't be edited by the user. And then we could go, say, into our notifications and to our admin notification, and maybe want to put it inside the subject of the email. Maybe we don't want to use the title of the page. Maybe we just want to use the registration. So we can just use registration there. Cool. We'll hit update. We'll go back in and we will inquire about this car, but it's still showing the registration field. So we just need to make sure that that's hidden. Okay, so I made it required, but I didn't make it hidden. Okay, we'll just go hidden. Cool. And maybe we won't make it required, just in case you don't add in a number plate. Done. All right, so I'm going to fill out my details again. And when I fill out my details this time, you'll notice at the bottom of the screen that Laragon automatically captures the mail that you're sending. So it's really, really handy, and you can actually see the email that's being sent. So we'll hit submit now. See down here, you can click on view email and you'll actually, oh, okay, so it's not working as I really wanted to. It has worked in the past. Let me just see why that's not working. Okay, what I'll do is I'll just try and send another one and try and fix what's going on there with Laragon. We'll hit submit and make sure you click on open Maildir, and you'll see that usually they should be text documents, but they're coming through as EML files. Now, if you have an Outlook set up or an email program set up on your computer, no problem. You can load it up and it'll actually show you how it looks like in an actual email. But in my case, I'm just going to do open with, and I'm going to then look for Notepad and make it always open up with Notepad. And then you can see the actual HTML version of the email. So I'm just going to open up the last one, and as you can see, actually that's the admin email that goes to the customer. This one should be, okay, inquiry about ABC 123456 from Sean Freitas. And then it's got all the rego details. It's got the registration there again. It's got the post title, which we included in the form. It's got our name, email. Sorry, this isn't the best way to show you. I might save it as an HTML file on the desktop. And we'll just open it up because it is an HTML email. Where is that? There it is. There we go. So that's how it comes through. Okay, so what about styling our form? What if we want to change how it looks? I mean, right now it looks extremely basic and it's using the standard CSS that Gravity Forms ships with. Now you can easily switch off CSS or the Gravity Forms CSS quite easily by going to settings and just turning off the output of CSS and hit refresh. And now you'll see that it's just in completely raw format. Now to speed things up, I'm going to make it so that it does output CSS still, but we can do a bit of prettying up of this, and especially with the button. It doesn't look too bad like this, but the button's just really bad. So what we can do is if we go into forms, it really depends on how you want to do it. If you're going to have multiple forms on your website and they're all going to have different designs, you can actually give the form a class. So if you go to form settings and you could give it a class, so, inquiry form, and then you can use CSS to target that. Otherwise, what you could do is if you're going to do it with every single form, you could say, just do a wrapper around the form and call that inquiry form. And you could just do the wrapper around every form that you have on your project. So let's go back to the front end and go into a specific car. And let's see what we can do in CSS. So let's go to the CSS folder. Oh, not the CSS folder, sorry, the style. Actually, yes, the CSS folder. We'll go to main.css and we'll go to the bottom of the screen. Now we're still just using standard CSS. We're not using Sass. So the class is inquiry_form. Let's open that up and we want to target the button. So let's right click on this button and inspect it. And you'll see that it is class is gform_button or button by itself, but I'll just do gform buttons. So we'll do inquiry form.gform button. And then what we'll do is we will Give it a width of say 100%. And we'll just make a background green, for example, and color white. Save that, refresh it, and it should, okay, so it's just changed the color, it hasn't done anything else. We need to obviously display it as a block, border 0. There we go, so that should stretch it the full screen. And still hasn't, so what have I done wrong here? One thing that could possibly be causing it is that if you look at the source and we look at the CSS that is brought in from Gravity Forms, so let's go down. I think it's included in the footer of the website, as you can see here. So what's happening is that the Gravity Forms CSS is overriding our CSS. So a quick and nasty way to get around that would be to make things important so that it automatically overrides, or Gravity Forms cannot override it. So we'll just do important, and then we'll hit refresh, and there you go. So we can do padding 1 rem important, and there is a bit of a gap between the form there. So what we can do is maybe just reduce the, it looks like it's probably a margin. Yep. So G-form footer margin. Okay. So inquiry form, G-form footer, and it will be margin 0 important. And maybe we can extend these to the full screen so they're not just halfway. So we could just basically look at the inspector and see what's happening here. And as you can see, the input is a certain width, so we can remove that width. And it's called input medium. I'm just going to make it input. So we'll do inquiry form input width 100% important. There we go. Then I'll just type in my details again, and we'll see what happens when we complete the form. We'll see the message that comes up, and that's the message there. Let's right click and inspect that, and you should see that it's called G-form confirmation message. So we can just do inquiry form, G-form confirmation message, maybe give it a font size of 2 rem, text align center. Refresh it and go back and fill it out again. And there you go. I mean, that still doesn't look great, but that's a start. Maybe you could give it a bit of line height, 1.5 em. So if you give it some line height, it should make it a bit, just to show you what it will look like in the browser. Yep, maybe 1.25, 1.22, yeah, maybe 1.2 or 1.3 would look the best, I guess. So we can just go back here and do 1.3. Okay, and obviously you can, as I showed you before, you can disable the CSS. However, what that means is that it is not going to really give you anything. It's going to make it very difficult for you to muck around with the CSS, and because Gravity Forms is set up in a bit of a strange way. That's one of its downsides. It's the customizing of the CSS isn't as easy as you would like it. So what I would suggest is probably using the base CSS styles and just kind of making them look a bit better. One more thing you can do is with HTML5, just output it. And what that will do is it will allow your forms to have, like, your email will, your telephone, when you're on a mobile phone, when you hit this, it will actually come up with a number pad instead of just a standard text keyboard. So yeah, so that's how you can edit the form and edit the CSS aspect of it. You'll notice here on the right hand side, it has a bit of padding here, which you'll see that padding right. So what we want to do is we want to target this G field and remove the padding from the right so that it's actually a square block. So I'll just refresh it again. You'll see that it's done that. So I'll do inquiry form, and we will just do, oh geez, what was it again? Let's go back. And it was, just go to the li here, li.g field. Okay, so li.g field, padding right 0, important, and that should remove that border or that padding to the right. There we go. So now we have a fully responsive form that that stretches the full way. The last thing I want to show you is how to protect your form from being spammed. So with Gravity Forms, if you don't have any protection like a reCAPTCHA or something like that, which as you can see here, there is a reCAPTCHA there. It basically means that if your website gets spammed, you're going to cop thousands of emails through it. So the best way that I've found, and I've been using Gravity Forms for years, is not use reCAPTCHA, because that can kind of muck around with the user experience. The best thing to do would just be to find another plugin, and yes, I'm using a lot of plugins here. Gravity Forms 0 Spam. This is the only plugin you will ever need. Actually, I didn't search for that properly. We'll go to Add New, and we'll do a search here. And this is the only plugin you're ever going to need for reducing spam on Gravity Forms. And how it works is basically when someone loads up the website, in JavaScript, they are assigned a key. And if they post the form without that key, which is automatically included through JavaScript, it just rejects the email. So if we go to Forms and we go to Entries, you should see there's a spam section there now. And that will just go to spam and it won't email to you. And that basically protects you from robots that are using the form to try and send you spam. You'll see a massive difference if you use that plugin. Now, I know what you're thinking. Hey mate, this is a WordPress theme development course and you're showing me how to use a plugin. The reason why I'm doing this is because I want to show you alternatives. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to code a WordPress form yourself. However, you're going to see how much time it takes to do. And then you might think, you know what, it might be worth investing in a good form plugin that I can use on all my projects, as opposed to having to spend hours and hours customizing a form for every website I do. Chances are that every client or every website you do is going to have a different type of need for a form. And if you can minimize the amount of time that you spend on doing these things, the more money you can make as a web developer. So with that being said, in the next video, we will learn how to create a form manually. Thanks very much for your time, and I hope you've learned something. And just quickly, if you do want to support me, the best way you can do that would be, if you were to buy Gravity Forms, just use the link in this video and I get a tiny commission, which just gives me an incentive and pays for my time to be able to create more videos like this. Thanks a lot and have a great day.